Let's play Guilders Alive in Shadow solo. Guilders Alive in Shadows has been designed to work as a PvP game, but it can also be played solo or co op against the AI gods and the game mechanics. That's been the design thought, but I haven't really had a chance to play test it this, so this will both be a let's play video, but it will also be play testing. So we'll just see how it goes and see if the mechanics and game is completely broken. For this series of games, I've made a new guild. It's on the photo here, and let's just start going over the characters before we cover the board. And the bottom left of the photo is my guild master with his raised hand. It's a magician. He's got better stats in movement. I want him to be able to outrun the guards. He's not going to fight. Good agility for dodging, and a high savvy skill for all those RPG elements after the games. Um, I'll put both his starting skill points in some hedge magic. He has a spell called Control, so he can move about the civilian crowds on the board and manipulate them. And then he has Absorb Sound that let him remove alarm tokens from the board whenever my guys has made noise to keep the guards away. Beside him is a half orc enforcer. It's a strong melee character carrying two weapons for when things might get bloody. Then there is three thieves, also in the bottom of the picture. Uh, there is two thieves with the lockpicking skill, and a single thief with the pickpocket skill. They're only armed with daggers, so not very good weapons. They won't be good in a fight, but they might throw the daggers and get a lucky hit. Then there are two street urchins. The street urchins are not armed with anything. They're cheap, and they're an easy way to get a secure loot token and get off the board. They're cheap in upkeep, so they will always earn their own keep. In the uh, in the top line of miniatures, standing on the roof there to the far left, there is a tinkerer. The tinkerer is a crafter that can make good items for the guild after each game. Before their first game, they're also allowed to use the skill, and he generated only a single item for this game, um, and he made a lockpick. So one of the thieves is carrying a lockpick that might uh, let them break a lock easier to get some loot. Then we have an acrobat armed with a crossbow. The acrobat is good at climbing, getting to a roof, getting some loot that is in a high place. So I'm going to use the acrobat for that and get up in height to secure some oversight and maybe have a good shot at the guards getting in too close. Uh, Next to last is the an alchemist, the old crone. The alchemist is another crafting character that can generate potions between each games or bombs. For this first game, she's created a scum called Lemmy, armed with a crowbar, just for breaking some doors and creating some noise. So he can attract the guards. I don't care if he gets beat. Is a 3x3 feet board for this game. It's just a tiny bit smaller because I can't get the camera. Civilian crowds on the board. They're all carrying loot. There are four crowds. These will move randomly at the end of each turn. They all carry some loot that I can steal. All the houses on the board are locked, and they also contain some loot. If a character is standing next to a door or a window, they're able to pick the lock and take the loot inside. There is also some town watch patrolling the city at the beginning of the game. These are armed with clubs. They're not really dangerous. They might knock out your characters if they make too much trouble. The scenario we'll be playing today is the standard scenario called A Regular Day's Work. So it's a small town, all houses have some loot, There are 4 civilian crowds. There are 4 single civilians, all carrying a bit of loot. There are 4 guards on the ground, and there are 2 crossbow armed guards placed on rooftops. Might cause trouble later. One of the differences when playing the game solo is that each turn there is some automatically generated alarm. Even if my guys don't really do any trouble, there will still be alarm generated, and the game lasts a maximum of 8 turns. So I have 8 turns to fill the pockets of my guys and get safely off the board. After 8 turns, the game ends, and anything not carried off the board is lost and won't generate any income for me. When you play solo, you set up the board first. You set up the crowds, the guards, and the civilians, and then you roll a random starting edge, so you can set up the you can set up the characters that you want to steal from to your own advantage. My guys are set up here on 2 sides of this house. On this one side, I have my enforcer, a street urchin, the alchemist, a couple of thieves, and the scum. And on the other side is my guildmaster, a thief, the tinkerer, the acrobat, and another street. Right. Turn 1. Each character has 2 actions to do. After each character has activated, there is a chance that the guard might take their turn and react to my guys. So you never know when the guards will take their turn and maybe come and attack you. So, first character, I'm gonna take one of the thieves here. He has 5 movement. He's going to move up to the door on this house right here. That's his first action. And for his second action, he's going to try and pick the lock. Guilders is a D10 system. The lock on this house has a 8 plus difficulty level. So you roll the dice for your character. He rolls a 7 plus his agility. That's 3. So Umbridge, the thief, rolls a 10. That's above 8. The house is unlocked, and he automatically takes the loot inside. That's his activation. I'll put an activation token next to him, saying 10 plus. The guards will now intervene and take their turn if I roll a 10. And that's a 10, so the guards will take their turn already. When the guards activate, there is a nice cheat sheet. You follow an algorithm to see how they prioritize. Then we take guards equipped with ranged weapons. Is there a lot of alarm on the table? No, there's not. So, does he have line of sight to a fight? No. Can he spot a hidden model? No. Move towards nearest alarm? There is none. Move D10 inches in a random direction. So 5 inches, and it's this way. So he's just taking a look inside the inn, and then the other guy over there, he can't move in this direction because he's already at the edge. The camera is a bit off. This would be the right direction. Right, then it's the melee guards on the ground. Around in a random direction, taking no second action. It's quite easy to move all these civilians. You roll the dice, use the point of the dice as their direction, and then move the characters. So he moves 5 that way. We have the next guard, he's over there, 2 inches this way, 2. There's a guard over there in that corner, he's moving 6 inches this way, underneath this house. And the last guard is over here, and he moves 2 inches this way. So that was the guards here in turn 1. They won't activate again. So now I'm safe to do any kind of noise that I want. The guards won't react to that, but it will generate overall alertness, summoning even more guards. So I still want to stay fairly quiet. So I think my acrobat is pretty fast, has 6 inches of movement, and is just going to run with 2 movement actions, 12 inches across the board, trying to get this loot over here. There is some extra valuable loot. There is a loot 2 token and 2 loot 3 tokens. These are higher value loot. You have to perform a steal action to pick them up when the characters get into base contact with them. For this scenario, there's a loot 2 token up here in this barrel of ale. There's some loot 3 in this meat card. There's a loot 3 over here at this produce, and a loot 2 on this barrel right. And get those before we get out. Next up is this scum. The scum has 4 movement. He's really just with the gang for some cheap muscle and can be a bait for anything hard to fight. Then we have a thief down here with a lockpick. He'll be using both his actions to go over to this house right here, ready to try and pick the lock next turn. The street urchin will move with both its actions into this crowd. So 1 movement action will bring him here. The next movement action will bring him into the crowd. All characters can enter a crowd. That will provide them with security from shooting attacks, and they will also just stay with the crowd, moving with the crowd when they move around the board. So that kid is safe in there, able to steal something later. I'll take this second street urchin, is also able to move into the crowd right there and hide with them. Then they can try and pick their pockets in the next turn. Then we have a thief right here. This is the thief called Offspring. She's the daughter of my leader and my guildmaster, and she has the pickpocket skill. When buying a thief in the beginning of a campaign, you have to choose if they have the pickpocket skill or the lockpicking skill. So I've mixed it about a bit. Next up, the alchemist. Let's just try and get them all into the board, really, moving the enforcer as well. To spread them out, they'll all have to help carrying some loot. The tinkerer moves into the board, and my guildmaster there with that guy. That's the end of my movement. The guards have already activated. Then it's time to move around the civilians. Civilians move d10 inches each turn. It's pretty fast to move them. You roll the dice, you use the point as their orientation. So this crowd moves 5 inches this way. They'll pass right through a player character. There's the monk over there. He's moving 10 inches in this direction. There's no bumping into terrain and going the other way around. So civilians will try and move around obstacles to keep the direction rolled. That's those guys. And we have the crowd up there, 2 inches this way. There you go. There's a farmer down there at the cart. He'll move 2 inches this way. We have a crowd over here, 6 inches towards the church. The gonna pass this guard right here. And then we have a civilian here, 3 inches this way, and a crowd here, 2 inches, 2, and the last civilian, 4 inches. He won't enter the crowd, so he'll try to keep the direction he's going in and move to the side of it instead. Fairly quickly to move all the civilians. So that's the civilian phase of the game. They've just moved around a bit. Now we're at the alarm phase, where we look at any alarm and see how many guards are summoned to the board. There's no alarm yet, so there's only a single extra city guard summoned to the board to make some trouble, and we'll take and generate a random board edge. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4, so he'll come over here. Since there's no alarm, he'll just enter at the middle of the board. That's roughly there, and that's the end of the turn of solo gaming. The overall alertness is always rising by 2, even if I don't cause alarm. So you can't just play a stealth game completely. So now the overall alertness is 2. The guards will become hostile when it reaches 10. The higher it goes, the more guards will be summoned to the board. The acrobat will use a movement action to move over here to this building. We'll use another action to climb. Movement action can climb their entire movement stat. We'll climb up here on the balcony, ready to try and steal that loot too, with those 2 actions, so there's no more to do for this character. The guards will intervene on a 10 plus. This was an 8, so no guards after this activation. I get to activate another miniature. Take the thief down here. We'll try and lockpick the house. This is the thief that got the lockpick from the Tinkerer. The house is an 8 plus difficulty. He rolls a 9, so he picks the lock and takes the loot. So that's my second character. That's beat number 9. So the guards will now intervene on a 9 plus, and that's a 9. So the guards are going to take their actions now. There's still no alarm. There's no fights for them to react to, so they'll just move about randomly again. This guy moves 8 inches down here, and he will move around the crowd to try and keep his general direction. So that's the guards for turn 2. We don't need these activation markers anymore. So that's this guy and this guy. Then we have my thief right here, Offspring. We need to find somebody she can pickpocket. There's not really any targets in range, so she'll just start moving across the board, trying to get to the civilians down there. She's using both movement actions to get down there. Then we have the alchem. Now let's take this street urchin. Okay, so this street urchin will try and rob the crowd. It's in, so that's an opposed test. The crowd will roll their savvy, that is 2 plus a d10, and the street urchin will roll their agility stat, which is also 2. So whichever rolls highest wins the roll. Blue is my dice. So the kid rolls a 6, the crowd rolls a 9, so the crowd is highest. He fails, that means the kid gets kicked out 1 inch in a random direction. Doesn't generate any loot, and there's caused some alarm. Alarm tokens are caused whenever the guilders fight or get captured in a crime. So if the guards hadn't already activated, they would react to that kid first, because he's been captured with his hands in the pocket of a civilian. We will just have the enforcer run down to this loot 3 down here, trying to steal that in a bit. And since the guards has already activated this scum, it's gonna move up here, ready to smash the door with his crowbar. It'll take both his actions moving up there. The Tinkerer will move towards the loot in that cart, as also taking both his actions. My mage can use his spells within 12 inches. He just can't reach the kit, so he'll move closer, and then he'll use his second action to use the ability he has, the spell called Absorb Sound, that lets him remove a single alarm token from the board, so that won't pile in the overall alertness. So that's gone now. So that's all these thieves. Then I have a thief down here with the lockpick skill. Let's move him over to this inn. He'll move underneath here, ready to try and pick the lock next turn. Then there is the street urchin over there. They'll also try and pickpocket the crowd they're in. So 5 versus 5, so it's a draw. That's a success for the kid. They get the loot. Or the civilians notice something is wrong, and it adds 1 to the overall alertness. Not enough to cause alarm, but this simulating that just a bit later the civilians will notice, oh, I'm missing something, and it'll build the tension on the board. So that's all my guys. The guards has already activated. It's time to move the civilians in turn 2. That's all the civilians moved. It's time to summon some more guards. The overall alertness is 3. At 3 is still just a single town watch entering the board, entering from a random direction again. 1, 2, 3, 4. A 3. So 1, 2, 3. Over here, there's no alarm, so he'll enter at the middle of the board. He's just outside the camera. It's the end of the turn, so the overall alertness goes up by 2. There we go. So it's now trying to steal this loot right here. We have over there a street urchin near the edge of the board in a crowd. He's stolen the loot, so now he just needs to get away. My Tinkerer is about to rob the butcher stand. Down here by the inn, there's a thief ready to try and pick that lock. And Lemmy is going to smash that door with his hammer. So the guild is pretty much spread out and ready to try and earn their pay. Turn number. Start with the acrobat up here. She's going to try and steal that loot right there. That's an agility test, and the acrobat has a high agility of 4, and she's rolling against any civilians within line of sight. If there's any civilians that spot her trying to steal, she'll have to roll against their savvy. So she has a +4 from 4 agility, and the civilians down here trying to catch her has a +2. She rolled a 9, so that's a 13 versus 6, so that's a success, and she successfully steals this. Now the acrobat doesn't have a lot of strength. She only has 2 points of strength, so she can carry 2 items or 2 loot tokens. And she's carrying a crossbow and a small weapon, so she'll have to hide one of her weapons in order to carry the loot. She'll just hide her sword, a small weapon, and she'll pick it up after the game. But she needs to carry that loot right there. Let's take this street urchin right here and go back into the crowd and hide in there. We must not forget the beats. So acrobat first. See if the guards intervene on a 10 plus, a 2, so they don't. Let's roll for the kid. That was 9, so nothing there. So that's beat number 9. Next character, this lock-picking thief will go up here towards the old mill. They have 5 movements, so he can move 10 inches. Your own character doesn't block them, so he can't really get close enough to steal anything this turn. The guards will intervene on an 8 plus. Not yet, that was a 3. Then we have the enforcer will try and take the loot up there at this produce crate. An enforcer has an agility of 3, and there are civilians watching her. They have 2 savvy. So my enforcer rolls a 2 plus 3, that's a 5 total, and the civilian rolls an 8 plus 2, that's a 10. So they spot her and they start yelling, causing alarm, and she has to back off 1 inch. With her second action, she'll just move back into base contact, and she's ready to try and steal it again, but that caused a bit of alarm. Let's just use the guild master here. He can move 6 inches, so not quite enough to get up here, and he'll use his second action to remove 1 alarm token with the absorb sound cantrip spell, and a 6 for the guildmaster. I keep forgetting. So the guards, they react now on a 6 plus on the guildmaster. There's still no alarm on the board. The overall alertness is still fairly low, so it's still random. So that's all the guards having moved, and I can move the rest of my guys. Let's just use this guy here with the crowbar to try and smash the door. It's an 8 plus, like if he was lockpicking it. Use the strength stat instead. So he rolls a 3 plus his strength, that's 6, plus another one from the crowbar, that's only 7. He doesn't manage to break down the door. He does generate 1 alarm because he's trying to smash a door with the crowbar. That's his first action. You can't try any actions twice. You can only try each action 1 time per activation. So I think that's just his turn ending right there. Let's see if the Tinkerer can steal the loot up there without getting noticed by a civilian crowd. The Tinkerer has an agility of 2. He rolls a 9 plus 2, that's 11. The crowd rolls a 9 plus 2, that's an 11. So he gains the loot, but the overall alertness goes up by 1 because while they don't cause alarm and call the guards, they do sense something fishy is going on. With his second action, I think he'll just start to move off the board. So 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. Then we need the alchemist. We'll move up to this thief with 1 action and use a hand off take item action with the second one, grabbing some of the loot from the thief. one street urchin left down here. He's just using his actions to move off the board. Player characters can exit the board on any board edge at any time, as long as they have movement enough to reach a board edge. They can go out from the game. So this street urchin has left the game, is out safe with a bit of the crowd nearest me, 8 inches this way. It's around. It's time to summon some more guards. The overall alertness is 6, so this time there will both be summoned a town watch and a guard dog. You have to roll for each individually. So first the town watch, he's entering from board edge number 3, so that's up here, and he will enter in front of the nearest alarm, which is here by the house, so that would make him into the board there. And then we have the guard dog entering from board number 2 from the nearest alarm, so this would be right up here, just outside the camera. Then it's the end of turn phase, where we remove any tokens needing removing, and any alarm on the board is not used anymore, but it goes in the overall alertness, so that brings it to 7. And then +2, because this is a solo game, so that brings it to 9, meaning that the next turn, turn 4, will be the last turn where I can move about safely. After this, the guards will start to activate and become hostile. Turn number 4. So I still have a street urchin in here trying to rob some civilians. My alchemist is carrying some loot to gain some XP. There's a thief ready to steal some more. Up here I have an acrobat who's taken some high value loot, an enforcer who failed to steal some loot, and my guildmaster ready to help her. That loot is pretty important, but soon these guards will start to be hostile. Over here there's pretty crowded. There's a bunch of guards around. I have a scum ready to smash a door if I can't pick the lock. There's a bunch of civilians that I want to loot, and there's still some high value loot over there. Start with the guy down here at the end. I forgot him last turn. Let's see if he can pick the lock. He needs to roll above 8. He rolls a 6 plus 3 from his agility, so the lock is picked, and he gains this loot. He's now carrying 2 loot tokens, so I think it's time for him to skedaddle. He has 5 movement, so he's able to move out here and exit the board. My acrobat will probably just stay there, so we'll take this thief right here, move over to this door and try and pick the lock. 5 plus an agility of 3, so the lock is picked, and the loot is taken by the thief. And then the guards will intervene on a 9+. A 2, I get to activate another character, so that's number 9, and we have 10 that's already moved off the board. Who should we move then? The street urchin over here will try and rob the civilians. Street urchin rolls a 10. Civilians roll an 8, so that's a success. The street urchin take their loot, and I think it's just time to get off the board. When exiting a crowd, you move from the edge. You measure from the edge of the crowd, so this street urchin is able to get off the board safely, and is also out with their loot. That's character number 8+. Let's see if the guards intervene. That's an 8. So the guards will take their turn now. There's no alarm on the board, so just a bit of random movement. That's all the guards so I can safely use the remainder of my guard. My Tinkerer was unlucky that our guard's movement ended directly in base contact with them. So they can't just move away. I have to use a breakaway action, giving them a 1 inch move away from the guard, and then they can take their second action to move the rest of the way. So you you can always move away from hostiles. They will never get a free shot, but it will cost you one of your actions, and you have to move directly away from them. One action to move away from the guard, and the remaining four to try and get nearer the board edge. Then it's time for the scum to try and smash the door again. He rolls a 2. That's not enough. That's a total of 6 with his crowbar. So he generates some alarm, smashing the door. Then I have the thief here. Can move just enough to get into base contact with the monk and try and rob him. The thief rolls a total of 9. The monk rolls a total of 10. So it's pushed away 1 inch, and there is generated alarm as the monk is. My guildmaster will move into base contact with this produce over there with the loot and try to rob it. He has an agility of 5. So he rolls a total of 6, and let's see, the civilians looking at them rolls a total of 5. So he actually managed to steal this. Then it's the enforcer. I don't think my enforcer is going to do. Yeah, my enforcer can move over here. Using both their movement actions. Not enough to get to the last loot, but getting pretty close. What do I have left? My alchemists haven't moved yet. Will move. They're about to turn hostile. I don't know. I think the alchemist will simply try and move off the board 4 inches and 4 inches. My alchemist is not getting entirely off the board, but is pretty close. Get off with. Time to move the civilians. That crowd, 6 inches. Smack in the middle of this alley right there. Separating right there. That was all of them. The guards have already moved, so now it's time to summon some more guards. The overall alertness is 9. So now it's 1d3, Town Watch, and a dog. A 5, so that's a 3 when making it into a d3. So 3 more Town Watch and a dog enter the board. We'll roll for each individually to see which board edge they enter from. Let's start with the dog. That's a 2, so it's over here. Nearest to closest alarm, so that's right in front of my alchemist. The next guard comes from board edge number 1. That's right down there in front of the nearest alarm. 1, so there's another Town Watch entering the board down here. And the last one, 1. So 3 Town Watch entering the board right in front of my thief. That's the end of the turn. Any alarm of the board is taken off. So that's 1, 2 alarm added to the overall alertness. So that's 11, plus the 2 for playing a solo game. So now we're on 13. We're halfway through this heist. The maximum turn count is 8, and now the guards turn hostile. The overall alertness is above 10, so now they'll start attacking any guilders they can see, noticing something is really wrong in the city. Let's take a close-up for turn number 5. The overall alertness is 13, so the guards are hostile the next time they activate, meaning they will try to attack any guilders they might see. This is one of my exits right here for Town Watch, and one of my thieves right up there. I have my Tinkerer right there, pretty close to getting off the board with some good loots, but there are plenty of guards near him as well. I have an Alchemist there and a guard dog spawned in base contact with her, and another dog right there for one of my thieves. My Guildmaster is in the middle with a Town Watch pretty close by, and then I have my Enforcer over here trying to get some extra loot. So at this point in the game, it will change. Now I have to really start prioritizing which guys I move when, because at some point the guards will intervene, and whichever guys I haven't moved off are getting in danger. So I think I'll be starting with my Guildmaster. I really want to get my Guildmaster off the board as quickly as possible. I don't want him to get swamped. So I'll start by activating my Guildmaster. He has 6 movement, so he can move 12 inches. And that's just enough to get him off the board. So that's my first miniature. Let's see if the guards intervene. A 9. So the guards doesn't take their turn just yet. I think the next one I want to activate is my Alchemist. So you'll have to use a breakaway action to move 1 inch directly away from the enemy. When the overall alertness is above 10, if you move within 1 inch of an enemy, they will try to intercept you, getting a free move to get into base contact with you in order to attack. So I don't think there is any way for my Alchemist to really get between those 2 dogs right there. So we'll just have to measure it to see if she can get out, or she has to take the long way through the city. So breakaway 1 inch, and nope, there's less than 3 inches between the dogs, so she'll have to try and find another escape route through the city. So next up, the guards intervene on a 9. That's a 3, so not yet. Then what? My Enforcer will move into this and try to steal the last high value loot. The Enforcer has an agility of 3 against the civilians 2. So she rolls a 12 and civilians roll an 8, so that's a successful steal. And the guards will intervene on an 8. A 4. Then let's get this Tinkerer off the board. Guards will intervene on a 7. 5, not yet. My Scum will use 1 action to move into the crowd and use his second action to make another move on the other side of the crowd right there. So the guards will intervene on a 6+. 7. So now the guards take their guy with the crossbow right here can draw a line of sight through the alley down to my thief down there. So he'll try to take a ranged attack. The city guard with a crossbow has a ranged stat of +4. He rolls a 10 +4, that's 14. Then there are some other modifiers. He's above My thief, 15. He can see the entire miniature, 16. He moved before he shot, so that's -1. He ends up at 15. My thief has to either take it on the chin with the fight stat or try and dodge it with the agility. So I'll roll an agility. I only have 3, so she can't roll above 13, and she needs a 15. But the defender will always win on a natural 10. She rolls a 1, she's hit, and she's out of the game. Potentially hurt really badly. When you get hit with a crossbow bolt, you make a bit of alarm. Next up is this guy right here. He'll try to acquire line of sight to one of my guilders. He can do that by moving up here. Then he'll go for the easiest target. This target over here has some obstruction cover, so that's a minus modifier. But if he shoots at the enforcer, he has full line of sight. So he'll try to take out the enforcer. The Town Watch rolls a 8 plus 4 plus seeing the entire target and being above them, so a total of 14. My enforcer will try and take it on her fight stat. Rolls a 9 plus a fight stat of 4, so that's 13, and she has a light armor, so that brings the range guard down to 14, and she is on 4. Oh, she's only on 13. Well, she takes a wound. The enforcer has 2 wounds like the guildmaster, and she also caused some alarm because she just got hit by a crossbow bolt. Next up is the melee guards. Then let's just take these guys right here. They have line of sight to my acrobat, so they will all move towards her. He doesn't have any line of sight, so he'll move towards the nearest alarm, and then he gains some line of sight, moving towards the acrobat. Then we have the dogs. They have line of sight to a thief, so the first dog will move up here and try to eat the thief. The dog has a fight of 2, and my thief will try and dodge with their agility. The dog rolls a 1, my thief rolls a 6, so my thief dodges, moves away an inch, but they're still causing some alarm from the fight of the dog. The next dog moves to my alchemist and attacks her with its second action. My alchemist has equally bad fight and agility stats, so she'll just try and dodge. I roll a 5. The dog rolls an 8 plus 2, so that's a 10. So the alchemist is bitten, taken out of action, and the loot is dropped on the ground, also causing a bit of alarm from a barking guard dog just ate an old crone. Then we have this guy down here. He doesn't have line of sight, so he moves towards the nearest alarm. That's up there. This guy right there doesn't have line of sight yet. Moves towards nearest alarm, then have line of sight. This guy right there. My enforcer is getting boxed in. This guy can reach the enforcer. There. This guy will move towards nearest alarm. That's down there. So that's here. Let's see. Then it's the civilians. This crowd moves down. There we go. I think that's it. Then it's time to summon some more guards. Overall alertness is 13. So that's 1d3 City Watch. And I roll a 1. The City Watch are armed with deadly weapons, unlike the Town Watch that are armed with clubs and batons. The City Guards have metal armor and sharp metal weapons. And the guard enters from board edge number 4. Right at where my enforcer would have liked to active alarm on the board. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 alarm tokens removed from the board, bringing the overall alertness to 18 and plus 2. So we end up on 20. And that's the end of turn 5. Overall overview at the start of turn 6. There's a lot of guards on the board. My enforcer took a hit from a crossbow bolt and is wounded and is surrounded by 4 Town Watch, with a 5th coming in. So that's a pretty unlikely chance she'll get out. Over here I have 2 guard dogs close to one of my thieves. One of the dogs just bit my alchemist to threats. I have my acrobat up here. She'll try to get off the board with the loot. And then I have a scum down here. He has absolutely nothing of value, but must just try to get out, so he won't end up in a sickbed. Not a lot of guys left on the board. 2 are wounded, and 5 have been able to leave with them. Let's take turn number 6. The first skill that I want to activate is my acrobat. She's carrying some good loot. She's able to do 6 inches of movement to the edge of this balcony and then take a jump action out of the board, jumping into safety with her loot. There's no rules that you have to cross the board on the ground level. You can jump off the board, or if you're on a rooftop close to the board edge, you can still take a jump action off the board, assuming that there's some building outside the board that you're able to land safely on. That was my first character. The guards will intervene on a 10 plus. Please don't. 1. The next character I want to activate is the thief right here. Should be able to move between the 2 guard dogs without any intervention. So that's first movement action, and the second will bring it off the board. The guards will intervene on a 9 plus 6. Then my enforcer is in a really bad spot. Like really bad. Just move 1 inch there and then 4 inches there. And then another movement action down here. Simply running for her life. Guards roll a 10 for intervention, so the guards will take their turn. There's no guards in a fight, so the ranged guards are first. Can they draw line of sight to a guilder? This one cannot. It's blocked from a civilian. But with a movement action, he can. So he's shooting at the enforcer, getting plus 4 for the range stat, plus 5 from being up high, minus 1 for movement, minus 1 from the obstruction of the civilian covering part of the miniature. So a plus 3 in total, and my enforcer will try and take it on her fight stat. So 9 for the city guard, and 1 plus 4, so that's 5 for my Enforcer, taking a second wound. And actually, I only have one miniature left on the board. It's my Scum down here, and none of the guards will be able to catch my last character, so he will move off the board with his last action, and that's the end of the game. 6, all my guys are off the board. They did bring out a good amount of loot, but I did take a lot of damage, and there is a ton of guards on the board. That was the first part of a game of Guilders. That's all the action on the board. Now comes the second part of the Guilders game, which is all the after gameplay sequence. First, gain or lose influence. I haven't really thought about this for solo gameplay. For this game, let's just assume the guild got +1 influence because they got out with a lot of loot, but I have to come up with some rules how that work during solo gameplay. Earning experience points is the second thing. Took part in the heist, 1 XP, moved voluntarily off the board, 1 XP, ended the heist with loot, 1 XP, being a guild master, being the winning guild master. Let's scrap that for solo, and there was no specific objectives. So my guildmaster came off the board with loot. That's 1, 2, 3 XP. My enforcer took part in the heist, but got shot down. My thief offspring took part in the heist, but got shot down. The thief Umbrage got off the board, but got off the board with 1 piece of loot, so that's 3 XP. The thief Carl gets 4 XP, participating, getting off the board, and 2 loot tokens. My Tinkerer got off the board with a piece of loot, so that's 3 XP. The Acrobat got off the board with a piece of loot, 3 XP. Alchemist took part in the game, but got shut down. My Scum got out, didn't have any loot, and the Street Urchin got out and had loot. So between 1 and 4 experience points for all the characters. None of them go level up, as you need 5 experience points for your first level up. If you're knocked out of the game by a town watch, you have to roll on the captured table because you're getting thrown into jail. But since my characters were shot with crossbow bolts or mauled by rabid guard dogs, we have to roll on the injury table. First up, let's roll for this thief right here, the offspring, the daughter of my guild leader. We'll roll the dice, consult the chart. 10. Let's check it here. That was some blow. The character has been knocked down and hurt quite a bit. They stumbled back to their feet and used the long walk back to the guild hall to think about what they could have done differently. The character gains 1 experience point. That's a nice win. So, in the end, coming off with 2 XP. Next up is the Enforcer. It's the most expensive character on the team. Let's hope she's not hurt too bad. We roll the dice. An 8. The character needs some medicine, but is otherwise fine. There's no trouble if treated fast. Pay 5 Gilder coins for small remedies or gain a light disease. I have a few Gilder coins in the bank, so I'll use 5 of those right away to pay for my Enforcer being okay. And last up is the Alchemist. The alchemist will not be able to use her crafting skill if she's hurt too bad. We roll a 1. Let's see here. Battered, bruised, and close to death. The character has taken a beating of a terrible sword, and there are multiple complications. Roll twice on the serious injury table. You can get the same result twice. The Gilder is also bedridden for D3 heists. Alright, let's see. Serious injuries. These are the nasty ones. And twice. First roll, a 4. A nasty hit to the back have hurt the character's spine badly, and she was already an old crone. They will never again be able to react as quickly as before, move and change direction and body position as swiftly again. The character has -1 agility. Never mind that on an alchemist. So -1 agility. 9. A life-threatening situation. The character just barely survived, have sent them into a state of shock. Trembling like a leaf, they can go back into the city, but they have lost some of their edge. The character loses a skill level or entire skill of their choice. So my alchemist is going to lose either alchemy or the doctor skill. That sucks. She just lost her doctor skill, and she's then bedridden for 3 games. Here we go. Get the loot. The loot tables in Gildas are huge, but now it's time to roll up the fun stuff, and we have some huge D100 tables for loot. 100, and let's see. We start with this little kit called Stick. Has a loot 1, and I roll a 97. 97. A well-made weapon of decent quality. Roll a d10. A 10. Fine one-handed weapon. Umbridge rolls a 70. Let's see here. 70. You got a smith's belt, including a hammer that will make a nice club, 2 whetstones, and 2 d3 gold. So that's 5. The thief called Carl. He has 2 loot 1 tokens. Let's see what he gets off with. First up is 70 again. Well, let's see. So that's another club, 4 whetstones, and 2 gilded coins more. His next loot 1 is 55. 55. The copper armband is good looking and worth 1d6 plus 1. 5 gilded coins. Do I have any more loot 1? Yes, I have. Dong has another loot 1. That's one of the street urchin. 50. Even though we got away with 3 purses, they all just carry sewing kits. At least there are 2 scissors. Scissors are one-use items that offer a bonus for pickpocketing. But was carrying a loot 2 item. I'll just go down here and see what she finds. 78. An opulent helmet was hidden in an old bag. It has the markings of one of the banned worm-eater cults. Could the cults be resurfacing in the city? Opulent helmet. And a loot 3 from my guildmaster. 27. Golden apples from the orchards of House Anagram. Hard to sell, but they will cover all Gilder upkeep in this heist. Nice, so I don't have to pay upkeep in this heist because I got some very nice apples. That's alright. That's a decent amount of Gilder coins saved there. And then we have the last loot 3 that my Tinkerer left with. 37. This set of six-sided dice are made of gold and have a minor enchantment that makes them sparkle whenever a 6 is rolled. A nice gadget that is worth 2d6 plus 20 gold coins. 3, 9, 29 Gilda coins. Card is the job section. Whenever you have Gildas that didn't get major injuries in the game, they're able to go out and do jobs in the city. There's multiple different jobs that a character can take. They can visit the market to sell stuff. I'm not going to do this. I don't have anything to sell yet. They can visit the fence if they have some black market items they have to sell. They can pay the bailiff if they have done something incredibly bad, so there's a bounty on their head. I don't want to do that. Guildhall jobs like crafting. At least I want the tinkerer to do that. So that's one job there. Roam the city is going around in the city trying to find some kind of trouble. Protect the neighborhood. You can protect the neighborhood for each influence you have. So I'm going to send my enforcer into the neighborhood to try and get some money. Working the streets. I don't have any courtesans. Grease the wheels. I don't have money to bribe. And then I can set some people out on the street begging for a bit of extra. We'll protect the neighborhood first from my enforcer. The guild is sent into an area close to the guild hall, moving around telling local merchants about robbers, tavern keepers about brawling thugs, and going to respectable citizens informing of fire hazards with old houses and their need to proper security. The number of guilders allowed to do this job is equal to the guild influence, -1. The guilder generates 1d10 plus infamy in gilder coins. She is not infamous, the enforcer, so she generates 7 gilder coins from that. The crafting, the tinkerer can generate d3 small items, 3 items. So let's just make a rope ladder for the next heist and 2 lockpicks just in case. All these items if you want to. Then we have the begging. Only street urchin and scum can do this degrading job without possible consequence. That's why I sent them out. Roll a d10 and check the result below. The scum rolls a 2, 1 gilder coin. Street urchin number 1 rolls a 1. The guards trouble the gilder. Roll on the captured table. Nice. And the second street urchin rolls a 4 and generates 1 gilder coin. So 2 gilder coins from begging, and one of my street urchins are potentially in trouble with the law. Let's just see here. It's right there. A 4. The guilder is jailed for the next d3 heists. Bail is set to 10 gilder coins plus 5 times infamy per heist. You can choose to only pay part of the bail for a reduced sentence. So the street urchin is sent to jail for 2. Roam the City is a large D100 table with a lot of RPG style entries. Let's see what we encounter with the acrobat. A 16. Let's go down here, see if I've written number 16. The collapse. On and about, there is suddenly a lot of shouting and dust in the air. The guilder investigates and finds that an old house in the slums have collapsed. There seem to be people trapped and injured beneath the rubble. Then I can choose what I want to do. I can choose to scavenge, lend a hand, or if I have the pack mule or strength 4, I can choose to save them. I think my acrobat is going to lend a hand. I've had a rough game. I don't think it's time to bring more bad karma on these guys. Lend a hand. The slummers are good people and do not live there by choice. The guilder is quick to lend a hand, joining the line of humans passing stones from the collapse. After hours of backbreaking work, the guilder 7 get 2 loot 1 as rewards found in the rubble. Let's see what she gets as a reward. 57. A symbol, holy symbol, that will net you 1d6 Gilder coins. 5 and 68. This walking stick uh, was really a disguised javelin. Thanks for watching this playthrough and playtest of the solo part of Gilders A Life in Shadows. Be advised that some of the rules here might change with further playtesting, but the base mechanics of the games really shouldn't change from this point on. Please make sure to check out some of all the social media through the link tree and support the game. All input is much appreciated, and any feedback from reading the rules will help make a better game. Until next time, have a nice day.